Hi everyone, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. Today I thought I'd share with you my 30 favourite British blues and British blues rock songs from my collection. Now, like any collection, it's limited. I've got probably some significant albums missing. I can think of a few off the top of my head now, you know, things like Savoy Brown, a couple of their albums that I'd love to have in the collection. Ainsley Dunbar's Retaliation, for example. But I'm just going to share 30 songs from the albums that I do have, 30 different artists. So tell me what you think in the comments below. So a couple of oldies to start with from the kind of 60s, and it's these two. So the first one is just an EP from the Animals. In the beginning there was the early Animals, obviously Eric Burdon's band. Got a couple of really good covers on here, for example Willie Dixon's I Just Want to Make Love to You, and Boom Boom, John Lee Hooker's song, and it's Boom Boom that I'm going to choose as my pick from that EP. And this is just a cheapo compilation of the Yardbirds in the time that they had Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck in their ranks. Heart Full of Soul, Smokestack Lightning, good cover of that. Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, For Your Love, Shape of Things, and a really good version of I'm a Man, which I really do like. So that's the Yardbirds. Moving on to an album, I can't show the cover of this. This is a kind of super group with Eric Clapton and Steve Winwood. You probably know which one I'm going to show. It's this one, Blind Faith. Can show the inside. I've never been massive, if I'm honest, on this album. I don't think it's that great. There's a couple of songs I don't mind. Some of the Steve Winwood songs I quite like. Had to Cry Today and Can't Find My Way Home are pretty good. On the whole though, it's not an album I reach for very often, but that's Blind Faith. Had to Cry Today is probably my pick from that. Eric Clapton comes in at next up actually, and it's his I think it's his debut solo album, possibly on Polydor Records. This isn't bad as well, and as I said, I'm not mad on Eric Clapton. I like him when he was in the Blues Breakers, but as a solo artist I struggle with him a little bit. Anyway, there's a really one great track on his, Blues Power, which is kind of apt for and that closes side one, which is kind of apt for this particular video. Next up, a guy that appeared in probably the best version of the Rolling Stones, possibly. The Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street version of Rolling Stones, and that of course is Mick Taylor. This is one of his solo albums. I don't know how many he did. I just picked this up for a quid at a record fair once. It's okay, fairly nondescript, but it does have one really nice blues song on it called Slow Blues, which is an instrumental and just shows the talent that Mick Taylor certainly had. And one of the albums, of course, that he was on was this one, Exile on Main Street. And I thought he brought quite a lot to the Rolling Stones in terms of their sound. He was, you know, a good blues player, and they were a good blues band. And one of the tracks that doesn't get any kind of time on here that I really like, it's a great blues song, is Stop Breaking Down. So that's there are lots of better songs on there, but that's my bluesy pick from Exile on Main Street, which is Stop Breaking Down, featuring the talents of Mr. Mick Taylor. As I said, I think he added a lot to that band. Okay, some early Dave Edmunds, obviously before he went solo and Rockpile and so on. He was in a band called Love Sculpture, famously Sabre Dance, which is from the album after this or before it. They did two albums, I've got both of them, but anyway, it's from this album. So this is Love Sculpture and Blues Helping. This is from 1968, I think. Some really good blues songs on here. Quite a nice version of The Stumble. He has quite a distinctive guitar tone, but the track I'm going to choose is the second track, which is 3 O'Clock Blues, which is a really good blues song. That's from Love Sculpture from the album Blues Helping, 3 O'Clock Blues. Next up is a guy that played drums with the this is at 24 by the way, who played drums with the Blues Breakers and one version of them, and it's Keith Hartley. He did a number of really good solo albums, and I think this is a tremendous blues album. Keith Hartley, really good drummers, got a really good lineup of a band with him here. Guitarist, I'm trying to think of the guitarist, Spit James I think his name is, and Miller Anderson, he's the vocalist on here. And a number of really good songs, really good blues songs. The track I'm going to choose closes off side one, it's called Sinning for You, but I think there are a number of really good blues songs on that album by Keith Hartley, which is called Half Breed, Sinning for You. Next up, in some ways this album should be higher. if I was doing an album ranking, because it's an influential album. I think this was a groundbreaking album. In fact, this predates Led Zepp 1, and there's some stuff on here that famously sounds a little bit like Led Zepp 1 anyway. It's Truth by Jeff Beck. This has, of course, Rod Stewart on it and Ron Wood on bass. Decent album. Shape of Things appears on here. You Shook Me, which Led Zeppelin also did, a Willie Dixon song. Beck's Bolero, which is a fantastic song. It's written by Jimmy Page. I don't think he plays on it. I'm pretty sure he doesn't, but he may well do. Blues Deluxe is good. It's a Rod Stewart song. But the last song is a Willie Dixon song, I Ain't Superstitious, and that's my pick from Truth by Jeff Beck. Good stuff. At number 22, it comes from this album. This is just a Harvest best-of for the Climax Blues Band, but the song in question comes from the album the Climax Blues Band plays on, which is from 1969, and it's a really nice instrumental called Flight. Really good song, really bluesy guitar. It's lovely. And talking of bluesy guitar, here's a band that I would love more albums of. So every collection is a little bit limited, and mine only has one Savoy Brown album in it, and I would like some more. And this is the album I've got. This is from 1970, Looking In. And there's a lot of nice blues songs on here, but the song I'm going to choose from here is an instrumental, which is fourth track on side one, called Sunday Night. It's quite jazzy and bluesy at the same time, but it's got a really nice guitar tone. So Looking In, Savoy Brown, the choice track there is Sunday Night. And that's from 1970, and that's an album that featured Dave Peverett, I think that's his name, who went on to play with Fogat. And although I haven't included Fogat today, they are a British band and British blues rock band. And if I chose a track from here, Honey Hush would be my selection, which sounds dangerously familiar to and close to Train Kept a Rollin'. Okay, next up, this is at number 20. I've gone with Humble Pie. Steve Marriott's band obviously also features Peter Frampton, who was a good guitarist. I've seen him live many years ago now, and he's very good. Not Humble Pie, but Peter Frampton, solo artist, really good guitarist. And there's some good blues rock moments on here for sure. And in fact, for me, the greatest track on here is the whole of side 2, which is 25 minutes worth of I Walk on Gilded Splinters. The guitar work on that is sensational. So if you've got a bit of time, Humble Pie, Rockin' the Fillmore, I Walk on Gilded Splinters. Good stuff. At number 19, I haven't got the album. It's a Vertigo Swirl album. I've got the Vertigo Swirl single, considerably cheaper. But it's Juicy Lucy and Who Do You Love? Edited version, obviously, on the single, but that's a tremendous song by British blues rock band Juicy Lucy. At number 18, Spooky Tooth, and from the album Spooky 2. Really good album. I think their best album, certainly the ones that I've heard and spent any time with. But Evil Woman is a tremendous song. I think it's quite a long song, 9 minutes possibly, maybe not that long, but a really good song. That's really worth listening to. Evil Woman, Spooky Tooth. Next up, this is the official Blues Band bootleg album. Great album. Talk to Me Baby, that starts off, I've shown this album before, but Talk to Me Baby, that starts off the album, is just really good authentic rhythm and blues. Has, of course, Paul Jones, who played in Manfred Mann in it, but a really good album, good fun. And in a similar vein, 9 Below Zero, again I showed this is their debut before, shown this before, live at the Marquee. Lots of covers on here, but some originals as well, including Stop Your Nagging, which is my pick today from 9 Below Zero, live at the Marquee. And also in a similar vein, kind of pub rocky, classic band, classic sound, shown this before. This is Malpractice, Dr. Feelgood. Number of really good songs on here, sort of the classic stuff, Back in the Night and so on. But I really do love on here Going Back Home, and that's the song that I'm going to share again today. Going Back Home by Dr. Feelgood. Okay, number 14. Got to include this band. This is the first album by them that really signified a change in their sound. Hugely influenced by Roadhouse Blues by The Doors. They changed their sound to have that kind of rhythm and blues kind of sound, 3-chord thing, as was often derided. But this is a really, really tidy album. Spinning Wheels, great. Shy Fly, some really good songs. Junior's Wailing, which is a cover of the Steam Hammer song. which is another album I would like in my collection. But yeah, Status Quo, Junior's Wailing, great stuff. At number 13, the debut album from Stray. I showed an album of theirs recently, which I played quite a lot and I've kind of getting into. And I've shared a track from here before called All in Your Mind, which has got just amazing psychedelic bluesy wah-wah guitar on it, and is worthy of your time. It's 9 minutes long, starts off the album, tremendous stuff. Talking of wah-wah guitar, I could have chosen a number of tracks probably from this fella. Quite a troubled soul. I saw him live, supported John Mayall many years ago. Originally did play with John Mayall, and this is the debut album from Peter Green, and this is called The End of the Game, which is kind of just like a psychedelic guitar album more than blues. But the opening track, Bottoms Up, the wah-wah guitar on that is just amazing. Absolute psychedelic blues. Really fascinating stuff. Okay, at number 11, and the lead guy of this died recently, Tony McPhee, but this is their classic. This is the Groundhogs, Split. Number of songs I could have chosen here. Cherry Red is a very good example of that, but Split Part 2 is my pick from the Groundhogs. Good stuff. So we're into the top 10 now. Top 10 favourite blues, British blues and blues rock songs. So at number 10, I've gone with Chicken Shack. This is their, I think this is a 1970s album. They did a couple of albums in the late 60s, but this is a 1970s, I think it is anyway. This is Imaginary Lady, and the opening track, Crying Won't Help You Today, again, that wah-wah guitar, it's just absolutely brilliant song. I adore it, it's fantastic. Next up, a band that features Mick Abrahams, who was in the first version of Jethro Tull and then left, as I think they were going a direction he didn't want to go in, or they got rid of him because they didn't think he was keeping up with the band or something, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's this album, so Getting to This by Bloodwind Pig, and this is an interesting album. I really like this album. See My Way, which is a Mick Abrahams song, is just fantastic. One of my favourite British blues songs. Obviously it's in the top 10, in fact it's number 9, but there we are, Bloodwind Pig on Chrysalis Records, See My Way. At number 8, a guy who kind of was made famous by an absolutely incendiary performance of I'm Going Home at the Woodstock Festival, and that's Alvin Lee in 10 Years After. And here we have his classic album, or their classic album, Cricklewood Green. Number of really good songs I could have chosen here, but 50,000 Miles Beneath My Brain, 7.5 minutes of just British blues at its finest, or British blues rock at its finest. Next up is a guy who was obviously very into Jimi Hendrix and very into the blues. Produced a number of really good albums. Used to play with Procol Harum, then went solo. It's obviously Robin Trower. This is Bridge of Sighs, often seen as his classic, and I certainly would agree with that. Day of the Eagle is tremendous. There's a lot of really good songs on here. In This Place, To Fall and Me, but To Rolling Stone is just marvellous. I'm not sure whether or not the version on the live album is better. It's between those two, but Robin Trower, To Rolling Stone. Next up, an album I've shown before. This is fantastic, Still Got the Blues by Gary Moore. This is a guy that could play it all, rock, fusion, blues, tremendous player, sadly not with us anymore. Another person I've seen live in various guises. He's in a blues guys with Thin Lizzy, as a rock artist, just an amazing player. I was going to say, is he underrated? He's often not spoken to in the same with the same reverence as a lot of guitarists, and I think he's equally as good. And this is an absolutely brilliant album. The title track, of course, is fantastic, but his cover of Walking by Myself is just a masterpiece. Next up, I've got to include something by this band. Now, I could have probably chosen something from here. John, that's the version, obviously, the Beano album with Eric Clapton, and I've always loved All Your Love, and I've always loved Stepping Out, a track that inspired Lazy by Deep Purple. I also like this album, Crusade, with Mick Taylor. This has also got Keith Hartley on it, and there's a really nice instrumental in there called Snowy Wood, which is great. This, with Peter Green, has got this is the only album I think Peter Green did with the Blues Breakers, and I think this is their best album personally. And there's a couple of songs on here, both of which are instrumental, which are just brilliant. The Supernatural, the guitar tone was is brilliant. It kind of signals the direction that maybe he was going to go in later, and certainly influenced Carlos Santana. But their version of Freddie King's The Stumble is just brilliant. I mean, his touch, feel and tone, Peter Green, is beyond reproach, and he demonstrates that on this album. This is the best of. Now, I do have a couple of other, but I'm going to choose this one because it's got just, you know, Man of the World, Green Manalishi, Black Magic Woman, Oh Well, Shake Your Moneymaker. One of my favourite songs is Need Your Love So Bad. I just love the guitar tone on that. But my favourite song by Peter Green's version of Fleetwood Mac is Man of the World. Not very bluesy, but just the most emotional song, you know, that they ever did. Just incredible stuff. At number 3, I said earlier I wasn't particularly a fan of Eric Clapton. I'm not overly, but his work with Cream was very good, and there's some really good stuff on this album, and I have to choose the classic song. I think the classic song that Cream did, and it's not Sunshine of Your Love or I Feel Free, it's his version of Crossroads. Is it Robert Johnson's song? The guitar work on that is just off the chart, absolutely off the chart. So top 2, one of my favourite 2 blues and blues rock songs. Well, the top 2 are more probably blues rock, possibly. Certainly the number 2, we've got a band whose debut album was a blues rock album, really. And this album, which is their 3rd album, is a little bit more kind of folky in some ways, you know, a bit more acoustic. It's, of course, Led Zeppelin and Led Zepp 3. But the track on here, Since I've Been Loving You, is a beautiful and brilliant blues song with one of the most amazing guitar solos that Jimmy Page ever put down on a record. You know, complete with the squeaky bass pedal on the drums and so on. But this is just a fantastic album, and Since I've Been Loving You is a classic blues rock song. And the last one is a song it's maybe a nostalgic pick, but it's a cover version, and it's just a brilliant cover. I remember buying this single. It was bought out in about 1976. I bought it in about 78, something like that, 77, 78. It was bought out to coincide, sadly, with the death of the guitarist of this band. And it is free. This is their debut album, Tons of Sobs. And it has a cover of The Hunter on it, which is just absolutely brilliant. I've always loved it. Yes, it is probably a nostalgic pick, and there's probably better blues songs on the albums I've just shown, but for me that's my favourite, and today is my 30 favourite blues and blues rock albums from British artists and British bands, and The Hunter by Free is my number 1. Tell me what you think in the comments below, and I'm sure I'll be back sometime with another video. Cheers all, bye.